In the early 20th century, the world was obsessed with progress. The age of industrialization was in full swing, and new technologies seemed to promise the impossible. It was during this time that one of the most ambitious engineering projects ever conceived took shape, the RMS Titanic. But Titanic was not alone in her creation. She was the second of three ships, the Olympic class conceived by the White Star Line to dominate the oceans. She would be joined by the RMS Olympic, her older sister, and the RMS Britannic, which would come later. Together, these ships were meant to change the very definition of luxury travel. Titanic, Olympic, and Britannic were a bold vision floating palaces, crafted to compete with the fastest, most luxurious ships of the time. They were designed to outshine rival companies, particularly the Cunard Line's Lusitania and Mauretania. But the ambition behind the Titanic went beyond mere competition. More than a ship, the Titanic was a symbol of wealth, power, and human achievement. White Star Line's chairman, J. Bruce Ismay, envisioned a vessel that would offer unrivaled luxury and comfort. Titanic was a marvel of engineering, equipped with lavish state rooms, a swimming pool, Turkish baths, and a grand staircase that would have made royalty feel at home. The Titanic was designed not only for the wealthy elite, but also to bring about a new era in transatlantic travel. The Olympic-class ships were to be the epitome of safety and stability, with features meant to reduce risk and ensure comfort for passengers on the long voyage between Europe and America. It was thought that these massive ships could withstand almost anything, including icebergs. When construction began in 1909, Titanic was a feat of human ambition. At over 882 feet long and 175 feet high, she was the largest movable, man-made object in the world, larger than anything that had ever sailed the seas. Her designers, Thomas Andrews and the Harland and Wolff shipyard, spared no expense. Titanic was constructed with luxury and safety in mind, but even more, it was a message to the world. But the Titanic was also a product of its time, an era of confidence and optimism. The belief that technology could solve any problem, that human ingenuity had reached its peak. She was built for an audience that craved the ultimate in travel, but also for a world that was eager to push the boundaries of what was possible. The creation of Titanic, along with her sisters, was part of an intense competition in the shipping industry. The White Star Line was determined to surpass Cunard's speed records, but Titanic was not built to be the fastest. She was meant to be the largest and most luxurious a floating city on the sea. Her maiden voyage, set for April 1912, was meant to showcase this new era of travel, offering passengers a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Titanic was a ship that had everything, except the one thing it could not foresee: the fragility of human hubris.
Well, my father was a builder, a master builder, and in England in 1911 business wasn't very good, and he had built a lot of houses which he couldn't let. Now that must sound very odd today, but it was so in those days. And when a friend of his who'd gone to Canada sometime earlier on came home to see him, he said, "You know, why are you putting up with this recession here? Why don't you join me in Canada? Together we could make a real do of things." And then within the space of one evening, my father decided to cut all his losses and go to Canada to join his friend. Well, in those days, one went to New York by fast electric liners, one of which went every day of the week, I understand, and then on to Canada by train, because at that time of the year, when the St. Lawrence is frozen, one would have to go to St. John's or Halifax, which were small ports, and then a very tiresome journey across Canada from there. So we were going to New York. And my father made this decision this evening. I knew nothing about it, of course, I was in bed. But my mother was absolutely horror-stricken. Well, to really make the point there, I must tell you that my mother was quite a remarkable woman. She had married when she was quite young, and she was 18, and she'd married a very bad marriage, and her parents weren't at all pleased with her. But they were right and she was wrong. And by the time she was 31, she had had 9 children, 9 babies, and they had all died. She had known what it was to be desperately unhappy and poor. And her children died and left her absolutely bereft, and with all this trouble behind her, which I'm quite sure made for the wonderful character she had. She had no illusions about things. Her feet were firmly on the ground. And so she met my father, married him, and they were divinely happy. He was so good to her. And I was born, which added to her joy. She had a lovely home. My father had a motor car, which in those days was rather remarkable. And everything was wonderful until this night. And the moment this arrangement had been made to go to Canada, my mother had this dreadful premonition. She'd never had one before, and she never had one after. But she said, no, we can't do this. It's quite wrong. Something dreadful will happen. And I tell you what, the sort of woman she was. She'd got both feet on the ground, and for her to behave like that was absolutely unbelievable to everyone. But she just had that premonition. And my father said, oh, nonsense. And of course, the time went by, and the house was sold, and we were ready to go, and we went down to the ship. But she said to him, now, I don't want any more unhappiness about this, but my mind is made up, and I will not go to bed in this ship. I shall sleep in the daytime, and I shall sit up at night. And I so well remember what he said to her. He said, if you want to be so stupid, I can't stop you. She said, I know, but I'm going to do it. And she did. And she sat up Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and on Saturday night, she heard an odd sound, and she awakened my father and made him go up on the deck. And he came back and told her that it was ice floes that she could hear grinding against the side of the ship, and not to be so silly. And at breakfast the next morning, other people said they had gone up on deck. They had heard this sort of noise, and they agreed it was ice floes. And my mother then said, well, surely if there's ice in abundance in the sea, there could be icebergs. And this officer who was at our table, he said, oh, nonsense, this is an iceberg. There's an enormous thing. We should see an iceberg. You've nothing to be afraid of. And that was on the Sunday morning. And for the first time, since we had gone on board the ship, she didn't get up from breakfast and go straight to bed, which was what she normally did, because it was Sunday and she thought she'd like to go to church, which she did. And then we had lunch together before she went to bed. And I remember that meal so well because that was the last meal that the three of us ever had together. Because in the evening, by dinner time, I was in bed, of course. And she just came and joined in whatever was happening during the evening, that sort of thing. And my father got very cross because he had every reason to dislike gambling. His father had been a compulsive gambler and had died utterly penniless from being quite a wealthy man. And so everybody was gambling on this Sunday night. They were making books, I think the term is, and having sweepstakes as to what time she would get in so many minutes past so and so. My father would have nothing to do with it. And so he went to bed quite early, for him anyway. And my mother sat down to sew and read, and she looked up at him. He was reading. He said he'd got a very interesting book. But quite quickly he went to sleep, and she got up and took the book from him and settled down again. And she said at 10 minutes to 12, she felt a slight bump. And she said it was just like a train pulling into a station. It just jerked. It was very slight, but she said she knew that it was this dreadful something, and she wakened my father. She wakened me, and my father said no, he wasn't going up on deck again after the night before. But she literally pulled him out of bed and made him go up. And she then said she was going to dress me, and I, being sleepy and very naughty, said I wasn't going to be dressed. Nothing to be dressed for. I came back to bed. My father came back very quickly because he could get up to the boat deck in the lift very quickly from where our cabin was. And He came back and he picked me up and wrapped his blanket tightly round me as if I were a baby. And my mother said nothing to him, and I used to say to her sometimes, years afterwards, I can't understand why you didn't say to him, what was it? Which she certainly did not say. And she said, I didn't have to say, what was it? I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was this dreadful something that I had to live with for months, and there was nothing more I could say. So he put his very thick coat on her and put another one on himself, and without any words at all, we went out of the cabin and into the lift and up onto the boat deck. Now, if we hadn't done that at that time, I very much doubt I'd be talking to you today, because, as you know, there was accommodation for less than 800 people in the lifeboats, and she was carrying 2,200. So it was a question as who was there in time to get into one of the all too few lifeboats. Well, they weren't launched very quickly, because at first no one thought anything was going to happen. But my father went away and spoke to an officer, and he said, they are going to launch lifeboats, but you'll all be back on board for breakfast. And so they launched these boats, and my father helped. He knew a lot about the sea. And he put me in the lifeboat and told me to be good. He said to me, hold Mummy's hand, and I thought he was coming after me, but he didn't. Then it dawned on me, of course, that he wasn't coming, that I wouldn't see him anymore. And that collision was 10 minutes to 12, and the Titanic sank at 2:20. So if we had had enough lifeboats, no one would have died that night at all. And it would have been a 9 days wonder that the ship sank on its maiden voyage. It didn't matter, nobody died, that would have been that. And here we are all these years after, with the whole world still interested in the Titanic. And we rowed away from the ship as fast as we could, because one has to do that, because I believe the suction when a vessel goes down is absolutely enormous. And we rowed away, and I didn't close my eyes at all. I saw that ship sink. And I saw that ship break in half. And for so many years, people have argued with me about that. But now at last, it has been proven beyond all doubt that she did break in half. I know she did, I saw her. And the forepart went down nose first, and the stern of that ship stood up in the water for quite a long time, or it seemed a long time to me, and then keeled over. And we heard the dreadful sound of people drowning, which was, unbelievable. And then, because our lifeboat was so full, so overfull, the officers called all the boats together and transshipped some of us. 1 in that boat, and 2 in that, and 3 in that, and I got separated from my mother. And that was the most terrifying thing to happen to a child. And we were picked up, as you know, in the morning by this little ship, the Carpathia. And the rescue of people from lifeboats in mid-ocean is quite a terrifying thing. These little boats, shall we say, draw up alongside, for want of a better expression, to what looks like an enormous vessel. She was quite a small vessel, the Carpathia, but she looked big from there. And then how do you get on board? You don't have a gangplank like you do when you're ashore. And so they opened a sort of, I don't know whether the word is right, a hatch in the side of the ship where the luggage used to be laid. And they threw down rope ladders, and people like my mother and other grown-ups had to climb up in mid-ocean up a swaying rope ladder, which she said was the most terrifying thing. A sailor behind sort of holding on. And then what can the children do? We couldn't climb up a rope ladder. So they got these big luggage nets, and the mesh is very wide apart. It's quite a big mesh. Children would have slipped through it, small children. Anyway, our legs and feet would have gone through. So each child was put in a sack. And I remember being petrified when I was put in that sack, and it was tied around, and the sack full of these children were put into these huge nets, and quite safely, of course, hauled aboard. But that really was quite terrifying. And then having got on board, of course, I couldn't find my mother. And I didn't find her for hours, but eventually I found her. And I'm quite sure one of the most pathetic things must have been the whole of the next day, how these poor women, such as my mother, roamed about the ship looking to see if they could see the husband they left behind. But no one found anyone. And we just went to New York in this little ship, and then my mother's first words were when she landed, "How soon can I go home?" We came straight back here. And as I say, all these years later, this interest is profound. And it's because there was no need for anyone to die. No one should have died. Had she had enough lifeboats with 2.5 hours and a very smooth sea, nobody would have died. And one life is worth more than the whole ship, surely. That is what I saw, that is what I remember. And there are hardly any of us now to share this memory, of course. I'm the only living survivor now that can remember it and get about, so to speak.
This is Fleet Roberts on the bridge of the Titanic, somewhere in the North Atlantic. This is our 5th night out since leaving Southampton, and the voyage has been as pleasant as it's been uneventful. The weather has been very clear, although rather unusually cold for this time of year, and the ship has been making extremely good time. No one is predicting a record yet, but no one will be surprised if one is made. The officer you see there is Captain E.J. Smith, master of the Titanic. With him is Lord Bruce Ismay, chairman of the White Star Line, the company that, as you know, owns the Titanic. Captain Smith, sir, is the Titanic performing up to your expectations?
If anything, beyond them.
Do you think you'll break the record?
Perhaps, perhaps not.
I myself would be surprised if it were not broken. You know how much of a run we've made in the past 24 hours? 500 miles, sir. 500 miles.
And 26.
526 miles, and we'll do more tomorrow, I promise you that. Unless, of course, the weather gets a bit sticky. Fog, you know, or a storm.
Or ice.
Have there been icebergs reported, sir?
A few. We don't usually get them this far south, but this spring has been somewhat exceptional, I must say.
Why is that, sir?
Well, it all goes back 2 years when they had an unusually warm summer up north. Broke off whole islands of ice, I'm told. And, naturally, they drift their way down here. But they move so slowly, it has taken them up until now to get here.
Would they be much of a problem, sir?
Oh, we travel so much faster than they do that, of course, we could get out of their way.
Speaking of being faster, could you tell me some of the other characteristics of the Titanic, some of the features which set her apart from other ships?
Well, it's hard to know where to begin. Roughly 46,000 tons, 882 feet long.
That makes her the longest and largest ship afloat, doesn't it?
It does indeed. And she's also the strongest. Heavy keel, reinforced inner and outer bottom.
And haven't I heard something about a most efficient pumping system?
Yes. Very unusual. Very powerful pumps. Could pump enormous quantities of water out of it. And enough piping so that it could be led into any area in which she might be taking water. As if she would, of course.
Could you tell me something about the bulkheads? I understand they're far superior to those on any other ship.
How many bulkheads does the Titanic have?
15, my lord. Transverse bulkheads, that is.
Their watertight doors are electrically controlled, dividing her into, how many watertight compartments, Captain?
16, my lord.
Controlled by these switches in here, and so proportioned that any two of the largest could be completely flooded without affecting the ship's floating powers. We could strike Westminster Abbey itself and float home under our own steam. But me no buts. You are on an unsinkable ship, my boy. There's a man on board wants to meet you. One of our stockholders. I think it might be wise.
Well, you'll excuse us, won't you?
Todd Hunter is in the main first-class salon with some of the distinguished passengers making this trip. Come in, Todd Hunter.
The roster of passengers on this maiden voyage of the Titanic reads like a who's who of both British and American society. That's Colonel John Jacob Astor over there with his young bride. With him is Major Archibald Butt, personal aide to President Taft. Colonel Astor, what do you think of the Titanic?
Magnificent. Everything they said she was. Britannia rules the waves, eh, Bud?
Do you think America will be able to match it, Colonel?
Beg your pardon, what'd you say?
I say, do you think America will be able to match it?
Why, I imagine in due time, but right now the British are way ahead of us. On the seas, that is. It is a magnificent ship. You hardly feel you're at sea at all. And if you stay inside, well, like never leaving the plaza. Isn't it, darling?
Oh, I think she's just beautiful.
That's the word, beautiful. They do a beautiful job, the British. You have to hand it to them.
Thank you, Colonel and Mrs. Astor. And that is Mr. and Mrs. Strauss. As you know, Mr. Strauss is head of the famous New York department store, R.H. Macy and Company. Having a good trip, Mr. Strauss?
Delightful. Couldn't imagine a better one.
Are your quarters comfortable? No complaints about the food?
I haven't slept as well in years, or eaten as well either. Except, of course, when you've done the cooking.
Pay no attention to him. I'm a terrible cook.
Pay no attention to her. Best cook I ever saw. Why, I married her.
Do you think the Titanic will start a trend toward liners of this size?
Well, speaking as a businessman, of course, not as a sailor, the trend in everything is toward size. Everything's getting bigger these days, and better, too. Just look at the buildings going up. Why, 20 stories high is nothing. No telling where they'll stop.
But isn't that dangerous, dear?
Not if you know what you're doing.
Why should things be so big?
Well, in ships, in general, the bigger they are, the faster they go.
But why should they be so fast?
Oh, there you go again. Right to the heart of the matter. You should have been a lawyer, my dear. But you can still quote me on the Titanic. It's a miracle, and I'm grateful to be on it.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Strauss. The man just coming in from the deck is Frederick Hoyt of New York. Mr. Hoyt is the well-known naval architect. Oh, Mr. Hoyt.
Yes?
May I ask you a few questions? As a designer and builder of ships yourself, would you tell us, please, your impressions of the Titanic?
Well, she's quite magnificent, of course. I was just having another look around her. She's absolutely the latest word.
Do you think she merits the title, the unsinkable ship?
Well, I imagine the Titanic comes as close to it as anything on the sea ever has.
Do you have any reservations about anything?
Well, there's a French restaurant, a palm court, Turkish baths, electric baths, squash courts. There doesn't seem to be anything that anyone would want.
I was talking about the ship itself, sir.
Oh, you put me in a difficult position, being in the same line of business, as it were.
Any comment at all that you'd have?
The Titanic has every modern improvement and every possible safety device. Her chances of ever getting into any serious trouble are extremely remote.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyt. Cleet Roberts has some information now from the bridge. Come in, Cleet Roberts.
There have been a few developments up here that may be of interest in showing the operation of the Titanic, particularly when any special precautions have to be taken. We are now entering a great field of ice plotted by the ship's navigators as some 70 miles long and 12 miles wide. No ice has yet been seen, but Mr. Murdoch, the chief mate, who has relieved Captain Smith on the bridge here, is ready to receive any warnings from the lookout up above in the crow's nest. Mr. Murdoch, how will you be informed if and when ice is sighted?
3 bells from the lookout. He has a telephone up there, too. He can pick it up right here.
Does he have enough visibility? There doesn't seem to be any moon.
Oh, it's clear enough. You'd be surprised how far you can see from up there. And you can see better without the moon. There's no reflection.
Well, what do the navigators base their calculations on if no ice has been seen?
Oh, reports from other ships mostly. We've been getting them all day. One from the Coronia this morning, others from the Mesaba, the Baltic, the America. Also, the other ships, when they spot an ice field, they tell all the other ships about it. Then the temperature dropped 11 degrees from 6:30 to 9 tonight. That doesn't mean ice. I'm in the wrong business.
Have any other precautions been taken, such as slowing down?
2 hours ago, we were making 22 knots. We're making 24 and a half now.
Isn't that dangerous with ice around?
We maintain course and speed as long as visibility's good.
But,
What would you have us do, mister? Come in late on the maiden voyage? What good is it building the biggest and best if he also isn't going to be the fastest? That's no way to make £1 million.
But if there's ice already reported...
If there's ice, we'll see it. And if we don't see it, well, mister, this ship is unsinkable, isn't it? Don't you read the newspapers? Haven't you read about it?
Hard to stop it. Hard to stop it.
Let down the engines.
Pull the stern.
Close all watertight doors.
Watertight doors.
What was that,
Iceberg, sir.
Close all watertight doors, then.
Doors closed, sir.
Good. I'll go below and see what damage there is. Good thing we didn't hit head on.
Yes, sir. Pull ahead.
Pull ahead.
And you're back on course.
Back to course, sir.
No need to get alarmed. You saw it wasn't much.
Harlow Wilcox is in the wireless room to show us the workings of this new invention that has so greatly added to man's safety and ability to communicate. Come in, Harlow Wilcox. The wireless is a comparatively new thing on ships, as you know, and it's rare to find a wireless operator of advanced years. The young man here is John Phillips, the Titanic's chief operator, who has just come on duty. He and his assistant, Harold Bride, have been very busy on this maiden voyage. Mr. Phillips, what kind of messages are you sending or receiving now?
Mostly personal or business messages from the passengers to the States.
Are you in touch with other ships as well?
We gab about a bit.
Here, gab a bit with these.
Right you are, Steward. I say, you feel this hit anything just now? Seems to me we shivered as if we'd brushed something.
You'd shiver, too, if you were down in that water. Just like the middle of winter out there.
Seems to me we're slowing as well.
Mr. Phillips, we've struck an iceberg. Stand by to send out a call for assistance. But don't do anything until you get word from me. It may not be necessary. Steward, you stand by here till further orders.
Yes, sir.
We stopped.
Well, whatever it was, can't be more than a scratch. They just got the wind up because she's new and all.
I hope you're right.
We probably ran into some poor old whale, and they're having a board of directors meeting
Phillips,
about it.
send out the international distress signal immediately.
Yes, sir.
Todd Hunter is on deck now. Come in, Todd Hunter.
The passengers here in first class were all alerted a little while ago and are now coming up to take their place in the lifeboats. No one knows exactly yet what's happened, but no one seems particularly alarmed. It seems inconceivable that such a slight bump, if indeed that's what it was, could have damaged a ship like the Titanic. Those of the passengers who aren't annoyed at being called out of bed in the middle of a cold night are taking the whole procedure as some kind of stunt. Oh, Colonel Astor. Colonel Astor.
Yes.
Do you know what's happening?
What?
I say, do you know what's happening?
Some sort of drill, I guess. Must be our ship, John.
Well, we're not getting into this, are we?
Women and children only, sir.
Well, isn't there room for everyone else?
Women and children, madam, that's all I was told.
Aren't there enough boats?
Attention,
Why aren't there enough boats?
Don't worry your head about the boats. Certainly there are enough boats. Why, it's really an elementary precaution that's always taken. Women and children first. It's kind of a tradition, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Old Captain Smith, he's a stickler for tradition. I'll be in one of the other boats right behind you. Now get in, honey. Don't worry.
But why? There isn't any danger, is there? It said the Titanic couldn't sink.
So it can't.
You're absolutely sure, aren't you?
Darling, doesn't matter a tinker's damn whether I'm sure or not. What's important is that Lloyd's of London insured this ship for the lowest marine rate it's ever given. Does that convince you?
Well, I suppose it's Lloyd. There'll be another boat for you, won't there, darling?
I can't see anything but boats. I'll be able to get in one of them. I'll be along as fast as I can. Bye, darling.
As you take the seat, tell off from over.
Get into the lifeboat.
Get that boat pulled clear as soon as it's free.
Captain Smith. Captain Smith.
Yes?
Is the ship badly damaged?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell us what happened?
We collided with an iceberg, hit the part that is underwater. I've ordered all passengers into the lifeboats. Watch those falls when you lower away. See it doesn't get fouled up in the hook. Mr. Hoyt, number 2 boat on the starboard side will be ready to lower in 5 minutes. I suggest you put your wife into it.
My wife's boat was just lowered. What's the damage?
We're ripped from stem to stern.
Below the waterline?
Yes, from the forepeak to number 5 boiler room. Slashed as though you'd done it with a knife. The gash must be some 300 foot long. And 14 foot of water in the forward compartment within the first 10 minutes.
Pumps can't take care of it?
No. You'd better get into a boat yourself.
Regardless of your boat number, proceed with starboard boat deck.
Is my wife's boat still close to the ship?
I believe so, sir. But you can't tell them there's anything really wrong. The boats are pulling away half empty. Some of them.
I'll give you a hand with the other boats. You'll probably need it. I advise you to get in the boat quickly as possible.
Harlow Wilcox has gone to other parts of the ship to see how the evacuation is going on. Come in, Harlow Wilcox.
I'm down here in the steerage of the Titanic, where an attempt is being made to get the steerage passengers out to the lifeboats. The seaman assigned to this job seems to be having some difficulty.
Look, I'm trying to give it to you straight and simple. The ship's sinking. It's going down, see? And all the women and children I want out to the boats. Out to the boats. See? See? No. Look, the ship's in trouble. Trouble. Sick. Sick. Oh. Isn't there anybody in here that speaks English, Mum? Hi, lady. Now, listen. Look, the ship's in trouble. It's sinking. It's going down, see? And I want all the women and children out to the boats. Too late. Better get a move on, Jocko. She ain't got much longer to go. Well, what am I going to do with these? I can't make them understand me. That's their lookout. You better get topside before you go down with them. What, is it as bad as that? Mortal, Jocko. Blimey. Now, listen. Listen, this ship is going to go down any minute. Right down, see? Down. Yeah, down. Huh? Don't you understand? Come here. Look, I want your kids and your women all out to the boats before it's too late. Do you understand? Don't you understand? No, touch! He lads! The time's running out. Now, come on! Here. Oh, lady! I'm not gonna hurt you, kid. I'm trying to save you! Can't you get it through your head? Better get a move on. The number 6 boiler room's flooded. 6 boiler.
Back to Todd Hunter on deck. Come in, Todd Hunter.
The boats are still pulling away from the ship. Some of the passengers are beginning to realize now this is no joke, that the Titanic is really in trouble. But there is no panic, and the evacuation proceeds quietly.
2 ABs at once without number 6.
Captain Smith. Oh, Captain Smith. Are other ships coming to your rescue?
The ship has been sighted a few miles off to port. She hasn't responded to our wirelesses yet, but we're sending up rockets. She should see them soon.
Have any responded to the wireless?
Yes, a few. The Carpathia is the nearest. She should be here in a few hours.
Will that be time enough?
We'll have to see. Yes, Phillips.
My assistant's on the quay, sir.
Good.
We've got the Frankfurt now. She's a German ship, sir. Also the Mount Temple and the Baltic. They're all on the way.
Any further news from the Carpathia?
Still coming full speed, sir. They're doing the best they can.
Good.
Just one thing, sir, if it can be done. There's a terrible amount of steam being let off.
Well, the engineers are reducing steam. We can hardly afford any explosions at this point.
I realize that, sir, but the signals are rather faint now. We need all the quiet we can get, otherwise we can't hear them.
Very well. I'll see what can be done to decrease the noise.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
I'll take care of it, sir, but I wanted to tell you the 2 forward compartments are completely flooded. They're using the emergency dynamos now. I've ordered the firemen out, but the engineers insist on staying. They say that if they keep the pumps going all along, that we'll stay afloat a bit longer.
How long do they give her?
Oh, an hour, maybe 2, sir.
Hardly time enough for the Carpathia to get here. Has that ship to port altered course any? Well, get the boats away and see that they're all full. And remember, women and children first.
Very well, sir.
Women and children.
We'll return you to the deck in just a moment. Meanwhile, for coverage of the activities below, here is Dick Joy in one of the engine rooms.
This is Dick Joy. We're just inside the bulkhead of engine room 7, and we'll try to find out what the situation is. You, sir, may we ask you a few questions?
Yes.
Could you tell us how things are going down here?
Well, we're not flooded in this compartment yet, if that's what you mean.
Well, just why are you letting steam off from the boilers?
A prevented explosion. If there's a full rate of steam and cold seawater breaks through and hits a boiler, it'll blow sky high. That would send us to the bottom class.
Didn't Captain Smith order all you engineers to go above?
It wasn't exactly in order. We knew we had to keep the pressure down, and the pumps had to be manned.
Well, then you feel there's still a chance to save the ship?
Not a chance. But with the pumps out of operation, she'd make a dive in a matter of minutes. This way, we may be able to keep it afloat for an hour or so. Give them a chance to get most of the passengers off. Lawrence will help arrive.
Well, how will you know when to go above yourselves for your own safety?
Don't worry about me. Excuse me.
That's all from engine room 7. And again, we return you to the main deck.
I want you to get in this boat. There's no sense in you staying here. I'll be all right. There's no need to worry about me. You're being very foolish.
I won't leave you. After all this time together, I wouldn't know what to do without you.
But it's just being sensible. Would you like to go inside and sit down?
Well, Mr. Hoyt?
Well, Captain? It looks cold down there.
It is.
Well, at least it will give me some sort of a chance. I don't suppose you... No. Stupid of me. Sorry. Well, goodbye, Captain.
Good luck, Mr. Hoyt.
Thank you. Goodbye, Mr. Murdoch.
Last posted down, sir.
Good. Is the ship's orchestra up on deck?
Yes.
Have them play something if they're up to it, please, Mr. Murdoch.
Captain Smith, sir.
Yes, steward?
Passenger on B deck, I wish to report, sir.
Report? What for?
Smashing in company property, sir. Breaking down doors. Pulling mattresses off beds. Says he's going to make some sort of a raft with them. Well, I tell you, sir, I'm responsible for that, and the regulation says that any...
Steward.
Yes, sir.
Your devotion to your company is admirable. I shall always remember it.
Thank you, sir.
And now, I suggest you do something about leaving the ship before she sinks.
Sinks?
Exactly.
But I'm responsible to the company, sir.
Yes, steward. So am I. You think the orchestra could play as a hymn, Mr. Murdoch?
Undoubtedly, sir.
You seem to understand the situation fairly well.
Yes, sir.
How about the rockets, Mr. Murdoch?
We've sent up the last of them, sir. There's nothing more we can do.
No, I don't suppose there is. Well, I shall go up to the bridge. Goodbye, Mr. Murdoch.
Goodbye, Captain.
April 14th, 1912. The RMS Titanic, the largest and most luxurious ship ever built, sailed confidently through the icy waters of the North Atlantic, heralded as unsinkable. She carried over 2,200 passengers and crew aboard, bound for New York. On board, the mood was one of quiet pride, the grandeur of the vessel a testament to human achievement. No one could have known that, just a few hours into that fateful night, history would be rewritten in the cold, unforgiving sea. At 11:40 p.m., on a moonless night, a warning came too late. The Titanic, cruising at near maximum speed, was about to face an obstacle unlike any before. Sound of a distant bell ringing, followed by the ominous crash of the ship striking the iceberg. The iceberg struck the starboard side with a deafening crash, a glancing blow, or so it seemed. The crew, unaware of the catastrophic damage below, carried on as if nothing had changed. But the Titanic was not as invulnerable as they had believed. The crew rushing below deck, scenes of confusion and disbelief. Beneath the surface, the ship's hull had been torn apart. 5 compartments designed to be watertight were flooding rapidly. Even as crew members assessed the damage, it became clear the Titanic was sinking. The sound of water rushing in, faint cries from passengers below. The Titanic had been designed to survive a collision with a single iceberg. But this was no ordinary accident. The force of the impact had opened a series of ruptures along her hull, and water was pouring in faster than the pumps could handle. The passengers gathering on deck, the crew attempting to lower lifeboats. The first signs of panic emerged as the ship's tilt became more pronounced. Passengers, initially calm, began to realize the unthinkable was happening. As lifeboats were launched, it became painfully clear there weren't enough for everyone. The sound of frantic voices. The first lifeboats lowered into the water. In the chaos, many lifeboats were launched half-filled. Women and children were prioritized, but many others, including some of the wealthiest men aboard, were left behind. The lifeboats carried fewer than half the people who needed them. The Titanic tilting at an extreme angle, the bow sinking into the water. At 2:20 a.m., the Titanic disappeared beneath the waves. A ship that had been designed to defy nature was now lost to it. The impact had taken just over 2 hours, but in those final moments, over 1,500 lives were claimed. The lifeboats in the distance, survivors gazing at the horizon, the ocean eerily still. In the end, only a fraction of those aboard would survive the cold, unforgiving waters. The night was silent, save for the distant cries of the lost, swallowed by the Atlantic. The sound of a bell tolling softly in the distance. The Titanic's legacy endures a tragedy that exposed the frailty of human ambition and the terrifying power of nature, a tale of triumph and of devastating loss that would echo through history forever.
There was no impact as such. It was just like jamming your brakes on a car. And that was that. She stopped. We had a porthole open, and I looked out, and the sky was clear, the stars were shining, the sea was dead calm. And I thought, I don't know, I couldn't understand it. So I came out of my cabin, and I thought, well, I'd go forward. And I went forward to the well deck on the starboard side, and I could see ice in the well deck. There's no sign of iceberg then, because she'd passed us. And the lights were shining on the water from the portholes, and no sign of damage above waterline. And of course, what had happened, we'd slipped over the iceberg. And although she was supposed to be unsinkable with a double bottom, the iceberg had cut her from forward on the starboard side to the engine room, almost amidships, right through her two bottoms. And we had orders to get the lifeboats out. And of course the order, the same old order, women and children. And we swung the lifeboats out and gradually filled them up. First boats were away on the port side. The first boats away didn't have many passengers on board. They were afraid to go down. There was a 70-foot drop to the water, and they didn't think she was going to sink. And a few of the first boats on the port side got away with half filled. Don't forget, we had 16 lifeboats, and they each carried 50. And if they'd been filled, we could have saved 800, whereas we only saved 500. So you can imagine there were many seats in the first lifeboats vacant. Then I had orders to go down the storeroom with a gang of men and get all the biscuits we could find. Well, when we got back up onto the boat deck, we couldn't get near the lifeboats. Some people were scrambling to get in and being pushed back. By that time, she was listing very badly to port, and we couldn't get the starboard boats down. But before I got my lifebelt on, I met a young couple, and I can tell you her name. It was Mrs. Clark. They'd spent their honeymoon in France, and we'd picked them up at Cherbourg. And she was having trouble with her lifebelt. So I fixed that on to her, and I said, I think you'd better get into a lifeboat. And there was one in the port, on the port side. So she said, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to leave my husband. So I said, well, it's just a precautionary measure. You get in, your husband will follow later on. And I got her away, and that was that. And then I picked up my own lifebelt and put it on. Well, things went then, and then the third-class passengers were coming up. There were 700 of them, and they swarmed the decks and filled up the decks. And I thought, well, I'd done all I possibly could. I'd helped them all I could. And I thought, well, now I'll go up and get out of all this scrumming and go on the poop deck. And she was sinking fast then. And all of a sudden she lifted up quickly and you could hear everything crashing through her. Everything that was movable was going through her. And then she went down and seemed to come up again. So I thought, well, now I'm going to leave. And I was hanging on to a board. We had two boards, starboard and port, which said, keep clear of propeller blades. And I was hanging on to one of these, and I was getting higher and higher in the air, and I thought, well, now I'll go, and I dropped in. I had a lifebelt on. And I hit the water with a terrific crack. And luckily, I didn't hit anything when I dropped in. There were bodies all over the place. And then I looked up at the Titanic. So the propellers were right out of water, the rudder was right out, and I could see the bottom. And then gradually she glided away, and that was that. That was the last of the Titanic. I didn't want to die, and I didn't see much chance of living, but I was gradually getting frozen up. And by the grace of God, I came across a lifeboat, and they pulled me in. And there was a fireman dead in the bottom, and there was about a foot of water in this boat. There was another man who he seemed to be trying to get away from it again. I don't know what was the matter with him. They were tying him down. And the rest were women and children. And I sat on a seat, and I sat next to Mrs. Clark, the girl I'd put into a lifeboat. And she said, the first thing she said, have you seen my husband? So I said, no, I haven't, but I expect he'll be all right. Anyway, I was in a pretty bad way then, as you can imagine, frozen solid almost. And she wrapped me round with a cloak. She had some sort of blanket or a coat on. Anyway, I think she probably saved my life, I don't know. But I saved hers, at least I think I might have done. I think I did, and she saved mine. Then, first light, the Carpathia came along. The Carpathia was about 7,000 tons, and they were going to the Mediterranean, absolutely loaded. And they took us all on board, took us to New York. And that was that. Captain Roskin was knighted for his job. He did a damn good job, too.
I believe you've even got a watch that you were wearing at the time when you went into the water.
Yes. Oh, and it's only an old gunmetal watch, but I couldn't afford anything better in those early days. Here it is. This one.
What does it show us? That says 2:20. What time was it when you went into the water, do you think?
I think about 2 o'clock. I think it lasted. It was frozen up like I was. I think it lasted for about 20 minutes in the water.
Does talking about this incident bother you like you have been today?
Talking about it? I should probably dream about it tonight. Have another nightmare. You'd think I'm too old for that, but you'd be amazed. You lie in bed at night and the whole thing comes round again.
Among the few who lived to tell the tale of the Titanic's tragic final hours were those who carried the weight of that night in their hearts for the rest of their lives. Their stories, passed down through generations, offer us a glimpse into the humanity that endured through the coldest, darkest moments of history. Eva Hart was only 7 years old when the Titanic set sail. Her father, a well-to-do Englishman, had booked first-class tickets for their journey to America. To young Eva, the ship seemed like a floating palace, grand and magnificent, filled with laughter and excitement. But she remembers a sense of unease as they embarked on their voyage. I remember feeling there was something not quite right. My mother had a premonition. She always said that we were safer on land than at sea. But we were just so excited about the adventure ahead, about seeing New York. Then there was the night the iceberg struck. I remember the sudden jolt and the noise. It was like the ship was splitting apart. I didn't understand what had happened at first. I was confused, frightened, but I could hear the panic growing. People were shouting, rushing about. My mother, she was so calm. She told me to put on my life jacket. She said everything would be all right, but I knew it wasn't. We were taken up on deck, but it was chaos. I saw men pushing women aside to get into the lifeboats. It was terrifying, so many people and not enough boats. I remember my mother looking at the lifeboats, and she told me that we would never make it if we waited any longer. It was then that we were ordered into a lifeboat. But I don't know how. There were so many people, and my mother held on to me tightly, whispering that we would survive. I was frightened, but I trusted her. The boat was lowered, and I looked back at the Titanic towering above us. And then, as the lifeboat was rowed away, I saw her sink. Slowly she tilted, then vanished into the sea. And the silence that followed it was deafening. My mother just held me, and we said nothing, because there was nothing left to say. We were rescued hours later by the Carpathia, but I never forgot that night. I carried it with me for the rest of my life. My mother, she never stopped comforting me, even as the world seemed to fall apart around us. She saved me. She was my anchor. Eva Hart would go on to live for nearly 100 years, sharing her story with future generations. Her voice became a living testimony to the tragedy of the Titanic. She would often speak of her mother's calm resolve and the moments of human kindness she witnessed even in the depths of disaster. But she also spoke of the deep sorrow, the loss of her father, and the lives of so many others taken that night. Eva was not alone in carrying the memory of that night. Many survivors would live with the trauma and sorrow, haunted by the lives lost and the decisions made in those fateful hours. Ida Strauss, traveling with her husband Isidore, chose to stay behind when the lifeboats were lowered, refusing to leave her husband's side. As the ship sank, they were last seen together, standing hand in hand on the deck, a love so profound that not even death could tear it apart. For some, the Titanic's legacy is one of survival, but for others, it is defined by sacrifice, loyalty, and love, never to be forgotten. Their stories are the echoes of history, a reminder of how the human spirit endures, even in the face of the unimaginable.